Hi, my name is Olivia Rice, and I'm going to be talking to you about people first language. So, what is people first language? It puts the person before the disability and describes what a person has, but not who a person is. If people with disabilities are to be included in all aspects of society, and if they're to be respected and valued as fellow citizens, we must stop using language that marginalizes and sets them apart. Many people share a person's diagnosis in an attempt to provide helpful information. So, for example, when a parent says, "My child has Down syndrome," they're hoping that others will understand what the child needs. In certain circumstances, and when it's appropriate, we can simply share information about what a person needs in a respectful, dignified manner, but we can omit the diagnosis because it's not necessarily important. The the best example that I've ever heard about what people first language is was from a previous administrator, and he said the best way to describe it is if somebody has a pimple on their face. We don't say that they are a pimple. We say that they have a pimple. It's not who they are. It's just something that they have. Which brings me to my next point. So, what is different? What is the definition of different? Because a lot of people have have several different definitions of this word, and then they take everybody who has some kind of disability and groups it into one huge group, and then they just call them different. So I looked it up, and the definition is not the same as others or each other. So unlike in nature, form, or equality. But my question is, who decides what is different? Who decides that what you have or the way you are is normal versus me, who I have something else or I do something differently? Who decides what is normal and what is different? So that's something that I really want to think about while we're going through this next couple slides is who decides what is different and who decides what is normal. So did you know that people with disabilities constitute our nation's largest minority group? 1 in 5 Americans have a disability. That is crazy to me. 1 in 5 Americans have a disability. The fact that I didn't know that, I think, is kind of cool because we're not walking around with big name tags on our foreheads, stating everybody's disability. This goes to show that our language of disability is improving because I didn't know 1 in 5 Americans have a disability. We're not titling people with their disability. We're titling people with their name and who they are. It is the most inclusive and most diverse group. So it includes all ages, genders, religions, ethnicities, sexual orientations, and socioeconomic levels. All are within that group. Words are so powerful. If you don't take anything away from this PowerPoint presentation, take this with you. Words are so powerful. A little history on language. So old inaccurate descriptions and inappropriate uses of medical diagnosis continue the negative stereotype. We need to advance our language into the future and stop using those words that we used several years ago. This invisible but potent force, not the diagnosis itself, but the actual language, is the greatest obstacle facing individuals who have conditions we call disabilities. So it's what we say. It's not their condition, but it's what comes out of our mouths. Disability diagnoses are unfortunately often used to define a person's value and potential. Too often we make decisions about how and where a person will be educated, whether they'll work, how they'll live, what services are offered, based on the person's medical diagnosis, instead of the person's unique and individual strengths and needs. We seem to spend more time talking about the problems of a person with a disability than anything else, and this is the one thing that needs to change, and it definitely needs to change in the field of education. A person who wears glasses, for example, doesn't say, "I have a problem seeing." They simply say, "I wear" or "I need glasses." What is routinely called a problem actually reflects a need. Which brings me to the future of our language, where we should be. Do you want to be known for your problems or by the many positive characteristics that make you the unique individual that you are? I think I know the answer. The real problem is never a person's disability, but the attitude of others. A change in our attitudes leads to change in our actions. So our attitudes drive our actions. I just put this in there because I think it's kind of powerful. But it's time. It's time that we take care of how our words impact the people we're talking about, and to be mindful of the attitudes and actions generated by the words we use. So literally thinking before speaking, listening to what we're saying, all of those things are what's going to be valuable to our student body. Oh yeah, this next slide, I created like a handout that I would give to staff members, just kind of a reminder. It's kind of hard to see, so I'll read a little bit of it to you. But the first page, I would just kind of summarize what I just went over. So what is people first language? What language have we been using? And then what language should we be using? So it kind of talks a little bit about that. And then the second page, this part is the part that I'm really proud of. I got this chart off of the article that I read by Kathy Snow. I included the reference down there. And I took her chart word for word and inserted it into this handout. And I like it because it's broken down into two categories. The first one is what we should be saying. And then the second part is this is what we should not be saying. So instead of saying this, we need to say this. And I like it because it gives examples that we use on a daily basis as educators and as teachers and administrators. So I think it's really, really helpful. So I'm just going to read a couple of them to you. So the first part is, instead of saying the handicapped or disabled, we should be saying people with disabilities. So remembering to put that person first and the disability second, if we even absolutely need to include the disability. So people with disabilities is what we should be saying. Another one that I think is really helpful, because I hear this all the time, is instead of saying confined to a wheelchair or wheelchair bound, we need to say uses a wheelchair. Wheelchair bound is not who that person is, it's just a part of them. So saying uses a wheelchair versus wheelchair bound. I hear that one a lot, just because we have several students in my school who do use a wheelchair. And then there's a ton of other examples that I think are really, really helpful. I also included in this chart a couple quotes and kind of little motivational sayings. I like to do those in hopes to kind of reach different staff members, catch their eye, get them thinking, and then add a couple little graphics. Even though it's simple with the colors and the fonts and those kind of things, there's still a lot going on, and I think a lot of information is included, including that reference. So my last slide is just that reference again. But yeah, this is kind of the end of this presentation on People First Language, something that I feel very passionate about. And I can't wait to share this with my colleagues and hopefully my future staff if I become a building principal, because I think this is something that can really take off. And I think it really changes the atmosphere and the environment and the mindset of our kids and our and kind of our family atmosphere as a staff. So thank you.